On November 12, 2021, the European Central Bank announced a targeted stress test of Banco Meridional SA's Tier 2 capital structure. That announcement forced 41 institutional investors to sell 312 million euros worth of subordinated bonds in 3 trading sessions. Between October 3rd and October 21st, a single Cayman-registered fund had shorted 680 million euros of those same bonds. They closed the entire position on October 22nd. The ECB's internal announcement, the one that went to banks being tested, was sent on October 23rd. The fund profited 340 million euros. I know because I found the trade data. December 2021. I was a compliance analyst at one of the brokers that executed the sales. Mid-tier firm, Paris office, running quarterly reviews of large client trades. Standard procedure. Looking for patterns. And there it was. 680 million euros, built carefully over 18 days, through 9 separate counterparties, across 7 European exchanges. Small chunks, nothing that would trigger a threshold report. Closed the day before the internal announcement. 3 of the 41 forced sellers. Hospice Sainte-Marie, Lyon, lost 4.2 million. Stichting Pensioenfonds Onderwijs, Rotterdam, Teachers Pension, lost 11.7 million. Fundação Universidade de Lisboa, University Endowment, lost 6.1 million. Retired teachers, hospice patients, students. There are 38 other names. I have them in a list I keep in my phone, in a folder that doesn't sync to anything. I've carried it for 3 years. I filed an internal suspicious activity note on December 3rd, 2021. 4 pages, trade data attached, counterparties listed, the October 22nd exit date highlighted, timeline, amounts, mechanism, everything. It was acknowledged in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. These things usually sit for a day or 2. Someone has to read them, review them, decide what to do. This one came back in 4 minutes. Received, thank you. We'll take it from here. No external report was ever filed. I checked. The mandatory suspicious transaction report that should have gone to the French financial regulator. Never filed. The note was acknowledged internally, and then it disappeared. I left the firm in March 2022, 4 months after I filed the note. They didn't fire me. Nothing like that. But things changed. Small things. Assignments I used to get went to other people. Meetings I used to be in, I was no longer invited to. Nothing you could point to. So I left. I printed the note before I cleared out my desk. I've carried it since. It's been through the wash twice. Ink's faded in places, still readable. I've shown it to 3 journalists. Financial Times, Reuters, Bloomberg. I sent them the note and the trade data, walked them through the timeline. None of them published. 2 didn't respond at all. The 3rd sent a polite email, couldn't verify the information independently, which was true. They couldn't, because the only way to verify it would be to get the ECB to confirm the internal announcement date, or to get one of the counterparties to confirm the short position. Neither of those things was going to happen. I also sent it to someone I knew at the European Securities and Markets Authority, someone I'd worked with on a cross-border case when I was still at the firm. They acknowledged receipt, said they'd look into it. That was February 2023. I never heard anything back. It took me 40 minutes to find who owned the Cayman fund. 40 minutes, publicly available filings, corporate registries, beneficial ownership databases, the kind of thing anyone can do if they know where to look. The Cayman Fund had a parent company in Luxembourg. The Luxembourg company had 3 directors. 2 of them were nominee directors, law firm partners, names that show up on 100 corporate registries because that's what they do. They sit on boards for a fee. But the 3rd director was different. Real person, real history, directly connected to the ECB. Former ECB official, left in 2019, 2 years before the stress test. But when they were there, they worked in the directorate responsible for banking supervision. Stress tests. I've had this name since December 2021. I found it the same week I filed the internal note. I didn't include it in the note because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to trace every connection, make sure I wasn't seeing a pattern that wasn't there. But it was there. I've had the name for 3 years. I haven't published it. People ask me why. The journalist asked, if you have the name, why don't you just publish it? Put it on Twitter. Send it to every news outlet. Make it impossible to ignore. And I thought about it. For a long time I thought that's what I should do. But if I publish the name, they'll bury it. They'll release a statement saying the allegations are baseless. They'll point to some technical detail I got wrong, a date, a subsidiary name, something small, and they'll use that to discredit the whole thing. The journalists who wouldn't verify the story when I gave it to them quietly won't verify it for anyone else either. And the name disappears, the person disappears. And the 41 funds are still out 312 million, and no one is held accountable. So I'm waiting. No, I'm not waiting. I'm building something. I won't tell you what, not yet, but I'm building it carefully. The way they built the short position, small pieces, multiple channels, nothing that shows up on anyone's radar until it's too late to stop it. I have the trade data. I have the corporate filings. I have the timeline. I have the note that was acknowledged in 4 minutes and then buried. And I have the name. 312 million euros moved from 41 pension funds and charities into a single Cayman account. From the hospice in Lyon. From the teacher's pension in Rotterdam. From the university endowment in Lisbon. To an account controlled by someone who knew exactly what was coming, because they'd spent 6 years in the directorate that announces these things. I should tell you the name now. That's what you're expecting. Klaus Mehring, former ECB official, assistant director, banking supervision, left 2019, 3rd director of Luxembourg parent company. That's who profited 340 million euros. Except that's not quite accurate. Klaus Mehring was one of 3 directors. I said 2 were nominee directors, law firm partners sitting on boards for a fee. I said the 3rd was Mehring. The problem is that Mehring was also a nominee director, not a law firm partner. Different arrangement. But he sat on 17 other boards, all finance vehicles, all in Luxembourg or Cayman, all with the same structure. Thin entity, minimal activity, the kind of thing you set up when you need a European resident on the paperwork. He charges 20,000 euros a year per directorship. I found his fee schedule. It's public if you know where to look. 20,000 euros to sit on a board, sign the filings, attend 1 meeting a year if required. He made 20,000 euros from this fund. Not 340 million. $20,000. I've been carrying his name for 3 years thinking he was the person. He wasn't. He was just another nominee. Which means the beneficial owner is someone else. Someone who knew how to structure it properly. Someone who knew exactly how many layers you need. Someone who understood that the third director doesn't have to be clean. He just has to look plausible enough that a compliance analyst stops there. Which I did. For 3 years I stopped there. I opened the file again last month. I went back through the Luxembourg filings, the corporate registries, the beneficial ownership databases, and I went one layer deeper. The Luxembourg parent company had an ultimate holding company, different jurisdiction, different registry. You have to request it manually. Costs €40. Takes 3 weeks. I got the filing 2 days ago. One beneficial owner, listed by name and national insurance number as required by the updated 2023 Transparency Directive. Not a former ECB official. Current ECB official. Senior economist, Directorate General Macroprudential Policy and Financial Stability. The directorate that receives advance notice of stress tests 6 weeks before they're announced internally to the banks. I have the name. I've had it for 2 days. And I realized something when I saw it. The note I filed in December 2021 was acknowledged in 4 minutes. 4 minutes is not enough time to read it. It's not enough time to review the attachments. It's barely enough time to open the file. But it is enough time to recognize a name. My firm was one of 9 counterparties used to build the short position, which means my compliance team had to approve the trades in the first place, which means someone at my firm already knew about the position when I filed the note. They acknowledged it in 4 minutes because they were waiting for someone to find it. And when I did, they made sure the note disappeared, and I gradually got frozen out and left 4 months later. The name on the Luxembourg filing is someone I've never heard of. Senior economist, no one famous. The kind of career official who works at the ECB for 30 years and never makes the news. But when I searched the name, I found one other listing. External Advisory Board, listed 2019 to 2022, for my firm. The compliance team that approved the trades. The compliance team that acknowledged my note in 4 minutes. The firm I left in March 2022. I don't know what to do with this. I thought when I found the name I'd know what to do. I thought I was building something. Multiple channels, small pieces, nothing that shows up on anyone's radar. But I don't think I'm building anything. I think I'm just holding it. The way I hold the list of 41 names. In a folder that doesn't sync to anything. I printed the list 3 days ago. I told myself it was for security reasons. If something happened to my laptop, if something happened to the folder. But that's not why I printed it. I printed it because I wanted to see if it felt different on paper. If the names would look different. If I would understand what I was supposed to do with them when they weren't just text on a screen. They didn't look different. They looked like a guest list, like a conference roster. 28 pension funds, 13 asset managers. $127 billion in combined exposure when you add up what they reported in their annual disclosures. That number is probably low. I keep the printed list in my gym bag. Not in my apartment, not in my office. In my gym bag with a spare shirt and deodorant and a pair of running shoes I haven't used in 6 weeks. I don't know why that feels safer. I think it's because no one would look there. If they came for my laptop, they'd take my laptop. If they searched my apartment, they'd find the usual places. But they wouldn't look in a gym bag in the back of my car. Unless they would. The ECB official's name is Henrik Lindholm. I've said it out loud now, to you, which means it's not just in the folder anymore. It's not just something I'm holding. Lindholm worked at the ECB from 1994 to 2023, senior economist in the Financial Stability Division, published 12 papers, testified before Parliament twice, no social media presence, one photo in the ECB archives from a 2011 conference in Frankfurt. He looks like everyone else in the photo, dark suit, lanyard, standing with 3 other officials in front of a banner. He retired last April, 2 months after I left my firm, 1 month after the short position started unwinding. When I found the advisory board listing, I thought that was the connection. Lindholm advised my firm. My firm built part of the short. Lindholm filed the disclosure in Luxembourg, using his ECB credentials. But that didn't make sense. Because why would he file anything at all? Why create a document that could be traced back to him? If you're coordinating something like this, you don't file disclosures. You don't leave breadcrumbs. Unless the disclosure wasn't a breadcrumb. Unless it was the point. There's a mechanism in EU financial regulation called the Structural Hedge Declaration. It was created after 2008. It's supposed to let central banks and regulatory bodies disclose large hedging positions without triggering market panic. The idea is that if a central bank or a supervised entity needs to take a large short position to hedge systemic risk, they can file a declaration that exempts the position from normal reporting requirements. It's buried in Article 17 of the short selling regulation. Most compliance teams have never used it. Most traders don't even know it exists. But it exists. Lindholm's filing in Luxembourg wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a leak. It was a structural hedge declaration, filed by someone with ECB credentials, declaring a 340 billion short position as a systemic hedge, exempting it from disclosure requirements in every EU member state, making it legal. I didn't understand that until 2 weeks ago. I was going through the footnotes in the filing. Page 7, subsection 4C. There's a reference code. It's the kind of thing you'd miss if you didn't know what you were looking for. Article 17, paragraph 2, subparagraph D. Structural hedge declaration. Approved systemic intervention. Someone at the ECB approved this. Someone senior enough to authorize an Article 17 filing. Someone who knew what was being hedged. Someone who understood that 41 institutional investors were about to take coordinated short positions against sovereign debt in 6 member states. And they signed off on it. Because it was a hedge. Against something worse. I don't know what the something worse is. I've tried to map it. I've looked at the member states, the timing, the pension funds on the list. 3 of the funds are Norwegian, 2 are Dutch, 8 are German. The rest are scattered across France, Belgium, Austria, Sweden. The sovereign debt they shorted was Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Greek, and French. All periphery except France. All countries that have had debt sustainability questions since 2010. If you're the ECB and you think there's going to be another sovereign debt crisis, you have 2 options. 1. You intervene directly. You buy the bonds. You stabilize the market. You do what Mario Draghi did in 2012, when he said the ECB would do whatever it takes. 2. You let someone else short the market first. You let pension funds and asset managers take the positions. You file the paperwork to make it legal. And when the crisis hits, those funds make money instead of losing it. Which means the pensioners in Norway and Germany and the Netherlands don't lose their savings when Italian and Spanish bonds collapse. Which means the crisis doesn't spread north. Which means the EU doesn't fracture. That's the theory I keep coming back to. Not corruption, not fraud. Triage. I went back through the timeline. The short position started building in November 2021. The first trades my firm processed were dated November 18th. Small positions. Nothing that would trigger reporting thresholds. On November 22nd, 2021, the Italian government announced a $30 billion budget shortfall. It was in the news for 2 days and then disappeared. On December 3rd, 2021, the Spanish central bank issued an internal memo, later leaked, warning that regional debt levels were approaching unsustainable thresholds. On December 9th, 2021, the Greek parliament passed an emergency spending bill to cover energy subsidies. By December 15th, 2021, the short position was over 80 billion. By February 2022, it was over 200 billion. That's when I filed my compliance note. That's when it disappeared in 4 minutes. Because someone at my firm already knew. Because they'd been authorized to process the trades. Because Lindholm had filed the declaration and someone at the ECB had approved it, and my firm was one of 9 counterparties helping to execute a systemic hedge. And I almost flagged it as irregular activity. I think about that a lot. What would have happened if I'd escalated differently? If I'd gone to external regulators? If I'd made noise? Would they have shut it down? Would they have unwound the position? Or would they have done exactly what my firm did, acknowledged it in 4 minutes and made sure I was quietly moved aside? The position started unwinding in March 2022. Not because the crisis came, because it didn't. The Italian budget shortfall got papered over with EU recovery funds. Spain restructured its regional debt. Greece got another bailout package. Quiet, barely reported. The crisis that was supposed to happen didn't happen. And the funds that shorted the debt had to close their positions. Some of them made money. Some of them lost money. But none of them lost everything. Which was the point. I don't think Lindholm was corrupt. I think he was the person they asked to file the paperwork because he was senior enough to have credibility and junior enough that no one would notice. I think he did what he thought he was supposed to do. I think he retired because he didn't want to be associated with it anymore. I think he's probably sitting in a house somewhere in Germany or Denmark right now, wondering if anyone's ever going to figure out what he did. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to take this to a journalist, or a regulator, or a parliamentary committee. I'm supposed to show them the list, show them the filing, show them the timeline, let them connect the dots. But I keep thinking about what happens after that. If this was a systemic hedge, if the ECB authorized it because they thought they were preventing something worse, then exposing it doesn't reveal corruption. It reveals that the people in charge thought the system was about to collapse. And they didn't tell anyone. They just moved money around so that when it collapsed, the right people would be protected. I don't know if that's better or worse than fraud. The printed list is still in my gym bag. I thought about burning it last week, just taking it out to some park and lighting it on fire and being done with it. But I didn't. Because 41 names means 41 organizations that knew something. And if they knew, other people knew. And if other people knew, then this isn't a secret I'm holding. It's a secret that's already been distributed to compliance teams and risk managers and board members and maybe a few senior officials at finance ministries across the EU. People who signed off, people who processed the trades, people who looked the other way. I think that's what scares me the most. Not that this happened, but that it happened quietly and competently. And no one stopped it because everyone who could have stopped it thought it was the right thing to do. I still have the folder on my laptop. I still have the printed list in my gym bag. I still check the Luxembourg registry every few weeks to see if the filing is still there. It is. Page 4, 277. Structural Hedge Declaration. Filed by Henrik Lindholm. Approved by someone whose name I'll probably never know. I thought when I found the answer I'd know what to do with it. But the answer isn't something you do something with. It's something you carry. The way I carry the list of 41 names. The way Henrik Lindholm probably carries whatever he was told when they asked him to file the paperwork. The way someone at the ECB carries the knowledge that they authorized a $340 billion short position because they thought the alternative was worse. I'm not going to burn the list. I'm not going to take it to a journalist. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because I think the point isn't to expose it. The point is to know that it can be exposed. That someone outside the system has the names. That it's not just locked away in compliance databases and Luxembourg registries and encrypted board minutes. That it's in a gym bag in the back of a car. In a folder that doesn't sync to anything. Held by someone they didn't freeze out quite thoroughly enough. I don't know what to do with this, but I know someone should be holding it. So I am.